encore presentation of Golf Talk Live. Lee Trevino never knew his father. He was raised in his grandfather's shack, which had no electricity or running water. He worked at a Dallas driving range at age 14 after leaving school. He had begun to caddy at Glen Lakes Country Club, which was 100 yards from his grandfather's home when he was just 8 years old. He also began his love affair with playing the game before he turned 10. He helped Hardy Greenwood, a pro who owned the driving range where he worked, to build a 9-hole par 3 course from scratch. In 1956, Lee joined the Marines and was a 4-handicap player with a big bad hook. Fellow Texan Ben Hogan was also plagued by a hook in his early days, and today Hogan and Trevino are on every short list of the finest ball strikers in history. After returning from his tour of duty with the Marines, he returned to Hardy's par 3 course and driving range. He was soon invited to play at Shady Oaks, where Ben Hogan was a member. Trevino watched Hogan practice, and the shots fell softly from left to right. Trevino taught himself to hit the same shot by building a grip, stance, and swing that were uniquely his own and eminently successful. And when at the age of 27 he burst onto the scene, he was a breath of fresh air. He was spontaneous, and funny, and charming, and a brilliant player of the game. He won the US Open in '68 and '71. He won the British Open in 1971 and 1972, and the PGA Championship in '74 and '84, the last at age 44. He gave Jack Nicklaus the best competition of Jack's career, and frequently had Jack's number when they played head-to-head, particularly in major championships. His long-term record of consistency over the past 30 years is breathtaking. He won 27 times on the PGA Tour, and so far, 27 times on the Senior PGA Tour. He won 5 Barden trophies for the lowest scoring average on the PGA Tour, all of them earned during Nicklaus's best years. When he won the Barden in 1980, it was with an average of 69.73 strokes per round, the best since Sam Snead's 69.23 30 years before. He's anonymously generous, intensely private, a proud parent, and a man who knows the value of hard work, hard play, and deep laughter. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm Peter Kessler. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show and to introduce you to the one and only, one of the greatest of all time, Lee Buck Trevino. Great to see you.
Peter, it's nice to see you. It's
Great
nice
to have
be
you
here. Nice to be here.
Other than Arnold Palmer, does anybody love the game of golf as much as you do?
No.
Tell me about it.
And I'll tell you what, and I do have to make a confession. Palmer does love the game more than I do. I didn't think that it was possible for anyone to love the game as much as I did. I've hit more golf balls. I'm telling you, I used to, when I first got on tour, I'd hit golf balls. I'd play my round, I'd practice till dark, I'd go by a fast food joint, get a hamburger, a Coke, and then I'd go to a driving range, lighted driving range at night and hit balls. I did this for 2 or 3 years in the 70s, or actually in the late 60s and early 70s, but I loved it, yeah.
For somebody who loves it as much as you do, you're not sentimental about it. You don't have trophies sitting out.
No.
If I come to your house, I'm not sure if I'm going to figure out exactly what it is you do.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way about the game that you love so much?
I don't think, I like my privacy. Everyone out there knows that. When I finish a round of golf, I go back to my room and I do not unlock that door until I have to leave the next morning to go out and play again. I have room service, I watch television, I chip, I putt in the room, I do all this stuff. I don't have to have all these things around my house to tell me that I won these golf tournaments. I know I won these tournaments. And I don't have to have all these trophies displayed around me. At the moment, I do not have a trophy in my house. There's not one that's displayed in my house.
Has it ever occurred to you that you've got 6 children, 6 major championships. Maybe we could pass out one of those majors to each of the 6.
They would have to find the rental bin that these things are in cardboard boxes. But I have been very fortunate in my lifetime. Very, very fortunate. You saw the beginning of the show. That's where I came from. I'm a kid from the wrong side of the tracks. If it is a such thing, I use it as what people are always talking about, this side or that side. And I got lucky. And my luck was that my grandfather's old sharecropper's house was 100 yards from Glen Lakes Country Club. If that wouldn't have been there, I have no idea what I'd be doing today.
What does it mean to you that your mom and your grandfather who raised you got to see you achieve the American dream?
I think it was wonderful. My grandfather was the one that I think enjoyed it more than my mom, even though I bought my mom a house in 1968, and then she died a couple of years later with cancer. But my grandfather was a rough, tough old man, and I tell you, and he died at the age of 78. And I think he just kind of wilted away because you couldn't stop this guy. Loved to drink beer. We were brought up in Vickery, which is just north of Dallas, the Northwest Highway there. My grandfather used to go to about 4 different bars to drink beer, and my granddad could nurse a beer forever. So when I won the U.S. Open, I used to go to Dallas. I was living in El Paso, and I went to Dallas, and I used to go to these 4 bars, and I'd say to I'd say, listen, whatever granddad needs, however much beer he wants, you let him drink it. I'll come back in town about every 20, 30 days, and I'll settle up. And man, I went to those little bars, and I'd have to pay $200 here and $300 here. I never knew a man could drink this much beer. But he absolutely enjoyed it, yeah.
People talk about who were your boyhood heroes, and I always guess in your case that the hero has to be the guy who puts the food on the table. You don't have time for heroes like middle and upper class people do when they're kids.
Exactly. You're exactly right, Peter. You know, people have asked me that question many, many times, and I'll tell you something. When you're poor, we were happy, and we had something to eat, but you had to work to achieve this. It wasn't automatic to where you come in and say, okay, we're going to eat at 5:30. Baloney. There were some days you didn't eat anything, or you ate a little of nothing. You had beans, maybe some tortillas, maybe some potatoes. We had a garden out, but we had no heroes. We didn't have any heroes. We were trying to exist, and I think there's a lot of people out there today that are having a tough time that don't have any heroes. We didn't look up to anybody. No, not at that time.
Last year when you played with your son Tony in the Father-Son Challenge, he had to be the proudest dad in the field, but also that had to be a great time for you to solidify in his life at that point your role as his hero.
Well, you know, at the beginning, after their mom and I had gotten divorced, they were young, and I played with Tony the first time, Rick last year, which is my oldest from my first marriage. And I never spent very much time with Rick at all because I was only married for about 6 months at that time. 18 years with my second wife, and I had 3 lovely children. I had Tony, Leslie, and Troy. And Tony, to begin with, didn't like golf simply because I was not there. And he played basketball in high school. Went to North Texas State and then started playing golf again simply because he wasn't tall enough to play basketball at North Texas State.
In your family, I can't imagine such a thing.
But he started playing a little golf. Now, they're both pretty good players. Rick, I think, is a little bit better player than than Tony. But Tony has got probably the most positive attitude of any individual. I thought Dave Stockton had a great attitude. Nothing like my boy Tony. Tony can shank a driver, shank a second shot, and he says, don't worry about it, I'll get it up and down. And he can be over in the edge of the lake someplace. He actually believes that he can do this. But it was the most fantastic time that I've ever had with my children, for the exception of yesterday.
We'll talk about that as soon as we come back, and we will in just a moment with Lee Trevino. Don't go away. Tell me all about yesterday.
You have to understand, Peter, where I'm coming from here when we start talking about my kids, because the other 4 kids I never spent too much time with. I played so much golf. I didn't put them before golf. I didn't put anything before golf. And now I've kind of changed my mind, actually, with these 2 young ones that I have. Olivia, that's 8 and a half, a daughter, absolutely lovely, great student. She does great in school. But yesterday was my 4.5-year-old Daniel's first soccer practice. Now, just to watch this little guy out there, and I took him, I filmed everything, and they have a one-on-one, and he made a goal, but he had to do it 3 times, and he lost to the kids, and I filmed those, and I didn't film the one where he made the goal. And he keeps playing this thing back. He says, "What about the one that made the goal?" And I says, "I didn't get that one," and he was a little upset with me.
Are you going to be the kind of dad on the sidelines who does lots of yelling and coaching, or are you going to try to keep cool?
Listen, people need to let these kids play. You understand? The parents get involved so much with Little League. You know, they think they have Willie Mays or Pele or something out there. This kid's 4.5 years old, right? Let him bump around. These mothers in practice yesterday, the first day, they're screaming at the kids, you know, do this, do that. Just leave them alone. See, people today won't let kids do, the parent gets too involved in this thing. And these kids, let them play, and don't push them.
How are we going to let the young kids of America who can't afford to play golf, play golf? The junior programs seem to cater to middle class, upper class.
Yeah.
Can Tiger, can you?
He's trying.
Can any of us make a difference to make it more affordable?
He's trying. Tiger is doing a fantastic job in what he's doing. There's so many kids that have started golf. I just talked to Randy Smith, a good friend of mine,
sure,
which teaches Justin Leonard. I got a lesson from him yesterday. He saw a little flaw. I hadn't been hitting it all that good, and he's down at Royal Oak. But he's doing a fantastic job with junior golf and what have you. And we've got a lot of little kids down there. But Tiger's doing a fantastic job trying to bring this out. But it's going to take the USGA. It's going to take the PGA. It's going to take these clubs that are around this country today to bring the caddy programs back to these clubs.
No caddies
all
anymore.
This mandatory golf cart business. If it was up to me, I'd blow up every golf cart I could find. Believe me, I'd love to get me an 18-wheeler and run over all these golf carts. I am not an avid cart man. Never have been. I'm not an avid of a cart man on the senior tour. I'm not an avid when I play golf. I think you can play golf faster. But the problem is they're building these golf courses today to where the tee from the green is 200 yards through past 14 7-Elevens and one Target, and then you get to the next tee. So you do need some transportation to get to the next tee, but to play the hole. And then they put in all these lakes and everything in front of the tees. You got to walk around. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Golf has got to get back to its roots. It's got to get back to where these caddies and these kids can go out and learn this game. And I'm not just talking about poor minority kids. I'm talking about all these kids in general. The Evans Scholarship in Chicago has been fantastic for caddies. But we've got to get these kids back. There's nothing better than to have a kid on the golf course during the summer. You know where he's at. He's doing something. He's learning something. He's being self-sufficient. great confidence for a kid.
You know, you
great
mentioned
confidence.
Evans, Chick Evans, of course,
Sure.
one of the greatest amateurs of all time. You'd have liked him in 1916
Oh, he's a good friend of mine.
with 7 clubs.
Yeah.
He won the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
7 clubs. Let's go ahead and talk to John in New York, see what he wants to kick around. Hello, John.
Hi, Peter.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for taking my call. It's an honor to talk to you guys.
Great to be with you.
Mr. Trevino,
Yes, John.
I'm from Texas,
Yes.
and I took up golf 2 years ago, and I wanted to know, how do you keep your sense of humor all the time when you're on the tour? I mean, my golf clubs go flying.
Well, I'll tell you something, John, I don't have anything to fall back on. This is the whole thing, is golf has been my entire life. I have been playing at golf for 49 years, John. And from hearing your voice, you sound like you're 29, 31, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit younger. Practice. Ben Hogan said it once. He said, how much do you practice? And someone said, a couple hours. He said, double it. And you can't learn to play golf on a golf course, John. You have to learn to strike the ball, maneuver the ball, and get confidence on the practice tee. Once you have the confidence, it's no different than entering a 26-mile marathon. If you haven't run but a quarter mile every day for a month, you're not going to make 26 miles. So it's the same thing in playing golf. If you can't get the ball in the air, if you have no idea which direction the ball's going, then you should go practice. You shouldn't go out there and waste your time on the golf course. Or if you do go out there on the golf course and play, and say it takes 5 hours to play, then you shouldn't play again until you practice 5 hours. And then I'll tell you what, you'll improve. I am living proof that you don't have to have a great golf swing to be successful. Golf is a game of misses. And the guy that misses it the least amount of times is the guy that wins.
We're going to take a very short break.
Sure.
Thank goodness you're chatty tonight. I've got a little sore throat. You're doing a beautiful job, because I know usually you're very quiet.
Oh, yes.
We're going to take a very short break, and as we leave you, we want to show you a moment from the 1971 playoff, just before the tournament was to begin its playoff with Jack and Lee Trevino, and we will show you what really happened when we came back with the snake, the real story.
That's right.
Lee Trevino was one of 4 men to win the U.S. and Lee Trevino was one of 4 men to win the U.S. and British Opens at least twice. Walter Hagen, Bobby Jones, and Jack Nicklaus are the others. When he won the U.S. Open for the first time in 1968 at Donald Ross's Oak Hill in Rochester, New York, he became the first player to play all 4 rounds under par and the first to post 4 rounds in the 60s. He also tied Nicklaus's record of 275, set the previous year. In 1971 at Merion, he beat Nicklaus for the U.S. Open title in an 18-hole playoff by 3 shots. He missed 1 shot the entire round, a 9-iron on the first hole. When he won the British Open shortly thereafter at Royal Birkdale, it concluded a 23-day period during which he won the national championships of the United States, Canada, and Great Britain. In 1972, he successfully defended his British Open title at Muirfield, once again at Nicklaus's expense. It denied Jack his best chance for the Grand Slam. The championship will always be remembered for Lee's chip-in on the 71st hole, for eroding Tony Jacklин's confidence and competitiveness, and as the most bitter loss of Jack Nicklaus's career.
Now, before you give me the answer that he was the greatest player of all time and that you were lucky, tell me really, why do you think you had Jack's number as often as you did in critical situations?
No different than every week that this football season, everybody's going to be gunning for Green Bay because they're top dog. I've always played the underdog role very well. Never been very good when I was the favorite. Nicklaus, in my opinion, is the greatest golfer that ever played the game. I look up to that man because of that. He's on the top of the hill. I want to knock him off. Even if I entered a golf tournament not playing well, not feeling well, when I played with him, he did something to me. And I wanted to beat him because he was the best, in my estimation. Other people have different ideas of who the best was. To me, he was the best. And that's the one thing that I have in my portfolio that my grandkids, my great-grandkids will read someday, that I played against this guy. Yeah.
Played against him and did so successfully, and you weren't the only guy in the field who was looking to knock off Green Bay. You had to have the game, you had to have the insides, and I'm not sure that there was anybody better than you under pressure when it meant the most coming down the stretch. Now I want you to, if you'd be kind enough to, in the playoff of '71, there's been a misunderstanding over the years at Marion about the snake incident on the first hole. Now, the two of you tied, of course, with wonderful finishes the day before, Jack making every 6-footer in sight coming down the stretch, and you being afraid you were choking on your second shot on 18 and hit a wood when it didn't even call for a real long iron.
That's right. I didn't want to shank the 4-iron. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
And hit it right on the screws over the green.
That's right.
Let's set up the scene for me on the first tee the next day before we take a look at the tape of the snake.
Okay, 1 o'clock, we were going into our playoff. We had come off the practice tee. It was extremely warm there. My glove was all sweated out. I walked over to my golf bag, and I'm standing on the tee. Nicklaus is to the left of the tee, sitting on one of these little stick chairs. I walked over to get a glove. I lifted up a snake, and everybody's laughing at it. You see it. Now, Nicklaus says, throw it over here. I'm laughing, so I threw it over to Jack. He picks the snake up and looks at it and kind of laughs, as Jack would do, and then he throws it back to me. In the media the next day, after I shoot 68 to his 71, I just absolutely got blindsided from some writers because I had done something that wasn't sportsmanlike, unethical. They used about every word. I couldn't even read some of the words that they used. But it was done in fun. I wasn't going to throw the snake over there. He's the one that asked for it. I was actually showing the snake, in other words, to the gallery, and he wanted to see it. So I wanted to clear that up. And Jack would tell you the same thing. And I bogeyed the first hole. He parred it.
I don't think you bogeyed any others, though.
I did not bogey any others. Yeah, you're exactly right. I think I made, 3 more birdies, and that was it, because
no
Jack left it in the bunker. It was so funny because Jack left it in the bunker on 2, par 5. Then he left it in the bunker on 3. And I said, you know, he might be choking worse than I am. and then we had about an hour rain delay, and that's the reason I beat him, because those greens were extremely hard and extremely fast. And I have a low ball. My trajectory on the ball is very low. And it rained, and it poured. And I think we were delayed for about an hour and 15 minutes on the 4th or 5th tee. And then those greens got soft, and man, I could go pin hunting and play very well.
You never give yourself enough credit. You always say that you won your major championships in the mud.
Just did.
Half of them. You won the 2 British Opens not in the mud.
Oh, yeah, but...
And Marion, except for an hour of the playoff delay, was hard and fast, and you hit the ball as high as you needed to.
Well, Marion wasn't a very long golf course. For the exception of the last 4 holes at Marion, you know, you could take a chance and hit a driver off the tee, and you'd have a wedge into the hole. I was okay with that. But the 2 British Opens, Peter, you got to understand, you don't have to land the ball on the green for British Open. I could still play
But
there.
you always make it sound like it was a fluke somehow and that you snuck through the
I did.
the
Barely
finish line.
snuck through.
Yeah, sure you did.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk to Jamie in Florida who wants to ask you about one of those sneak-ins. Hello, Jamie.
Okay.
Jamie?
How are you doing, Peter?
Good, how are you?
Just wanted to tell you that I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Lee, I took up the sport later in life, about 24, 25, so I haven't watched golf all my life, but I enjoy watching your rounds. I thank Peter for having a show where they do show some of the pros back in your heyday on the PGA Tour. And I admire watching you play that game, and I respect you as a golfer. And on my top 10, you're up there in the top 2. So just want to ask you, out of the great players in your time when you were on the tour and the great players today when you watch, what do you think separates those top 5 or 6 players against the rest of the players that makes them stand out or makes them the favorites week after week after week? What do you think it is in their golf game that separates them from the other players?
Well, it has to be consistency, number one. Also, being able to look at a golf course. Nicklaus was great at this. He could walk a golf course, tell you within 1 or 2 strokes of what was going to win that golf tournament, and make his game plan. A caddy has a lot to do with some of these top players also. Believe me when I tell you this. They're very instrumental in setting up and coaching this particular individual, or going out and looking at this golf course and getting it ready for this individual. But what separates them? One guy works a little bit harder than the other. If you took all these guys and you put them in a basket and you shook them up and you pull one out and you make this guy practice harder than this guy, chances are this guy is eventually going to beat this guy. It's all on who you run with. Old deal. We used to have an old deal. He says, you run with dogs. He says, you're going to play like a dog. You eat hot dogs, you're going to play like a hot dog. You have to be very careful when you're on tour who you run with, who you socialize with, and naturally you have got to work extremely hard and get nothing but golf in your mind. All great golfers didn't have too many outside things. They think, they sleep, they eat golf. And that's what you have to do. Ben Hogan said it. I'm not the first guy to say this. Yeah.
I got a yes or no question for you before we go to break. When Ray Floyd, you played that famous 3-day match in the early '60s, when Ray was already a name on tour and you were a few years
just
away.
Won the Azalea Open, I think, or something, yeah.
Did not know who you were
Yeah.
in those days, and in most days you'd play anybody you'd never heard of. Is it true that you took his clubs from the car into the locker room, cleaned his shoes,
Right.
took a tip, and then when he said, "Who am I playing?" you said, "Me."
What happened is the man that brought him in there wanted to know if he wanted to go look at the golf course. And then he says, no. He said, man, I'm playing the locker room attendant. He says, I'm a touring pro. He says, I'm not going out there. And I shot a couple of pretty good scores. And then the next day, I think we tied, or I won the front, and he pressed everything out, and he won the back nine. Matter of fact, he eagled 18, Horizon City. He eagled the 18th, and I was inside of him. And I lifted out from about 15 feet, and I'll never forget what Raymond said. Raymond grabbed his ball out of the hole, ran to the pro shop, and says, I got easier games than this on tour. And he says, adios, boys. And but we showed him a good time in El Paso. We have a lot of good friends out there, and took him over to Juarez. We had a great time then.
He didn't come back to play you real soon.
We are very good friends, Ray and I. And I'll tell you what, I admire him, respect him. He's a good family man, and can play a little golf, too.
You betcha.
Yes, sir.
Take a little break, talk more about the great ones when we come back. As we leave you, let's take a look at Lee with a little extrication out of a greenside bunker at Marion in '71.
During the week of the PGA Championship in 1974 at Tanglewood, Clemens, North. PGA Championship in 1974 at Tanglewood in Clemens, North Carolina, Lee Trevino rented a house from a Mrs. Mayberry, who was a widow. Lee found the late Mr. Mayberry's golf clubs to include the putter that he had been dreaming about. The missus allowed Lee to use it, but it was not for sale. But if Lee should win, the putter would be his as a gift. After his 68 and 69 on the weekend edged one J.W. Nicklaus by a shot, the late Mr. Mayberry's putter was in good hands for the future. To complete the process of winning the U.S. Open twice, the British Open twice, and PGA Championship twice, the 44-year-old Trevino saved some of the best for last. He was a magician. He was persistent. He was magnificent in winning the PGA at Shoal Creek over gunslinger Lanny Watkins and the ageless Gary Player. It was a glorious shootout, and when it was done, the best head-to-head competitor of his time stood alone, putting his weapon back into its holster and already thinking about the next showdown.
You've had, from time to time in your career, feelings that you were going to win. You thought you were going to win at Tanglewood, didn't you, in '84?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was playing extremely well. I went to Holland playing the Dutch Open, and I was putting extremely bad. And it's no secret. I mean, my wife said to me, we'd left the British Open, and Seve had beaten, I think, Watts at the Old Course. And my wife says, what kind of putter does Seve putt with? And I told her. She says, oh, okay. What kind of putter does Tom Watson putt with? And I told her. What kind of putter does Freddie Couples putt with? And I told her. She said, when you go get one of those? You're not putting with my blade. And I went in and bought one, and it was too upright, too much loft. I put it on the floor. I stomped on it. I hit it down. I made it flat. I went back to the Dutch Open. The next 3 rounds, I shoot 13 under. Then I go to Erie, Pennsylvania to play in a 2-day Pro-Am up there for Ted Grassi, a good friend of mine, for a charity. I shoot 14 under. Then I go to the Buick Open. I shoot 14 under. And in this time, I shoot 264s. And I went to Shoal Creek. I says, man. And poor Herman had the gout, couldn't walk. I mean, it was unbelievable. And he didn't even go to the tees. He would give me the putter. I'd put the divots back. I'd go to the green. I'd putt out. I'd have a driver, clean the ball with my mouth. Luckily, I didn't die of poison or something. And go to the tee, and even it might even be a layup hole. I have a driver. Herman is 200 yards down somewhere. I couldn't say, hey, bring me back a 3-wood or a 1-iron or whatever so I can hit off this tee. And but I thought I was going to win that golf tournament.
And then, of course, at the end, Herman says, we did it.
Yeah.
I thought that the two of the greatest wins of the 80s was yours in '84 and Jack's at Augusta in '86.
That's right.
Now, I know that you were at the airport because you didn't like to play
You
Augusta.
remember what happened there?
Not only do I remember, but we're going to pick up the tournament. You're sitting in a bar.
Yeah.
You've just traded your beer for a double scotch.
You got it. And I never drank scotch.
Well, you did then. And we're going to take a look at Jack over the 4-iron.
Well, I'm glad you couldn't take a look
15.
at me.
I knew what you looked like. Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
It was unbelievable. There was a bar just across from our gate.
Go ahead, you talk right over
Well,
it.
and Jack is doing all this stuff, and I says, I can't believe what's going on here. This is the 15th. He hits it about 20 feet left of the hole. Oh man, I jumped. I said, give me one more. Give me a double here. Give me a double. And my wife says, the plane's leaving. I said, the hell with the plane. I got to watch this guy. And the bar is jumping up and down. And watch this. Watch this. Now here we go. Oh, there went my whole drink. You know, right down. I said, give me another one. Now he goes over to 16. You know, I mean, I just felt it. I felt that he was going to win this golf tournament. And I thought it was fantastic.
What did you say to him when you either telegrammed him or spoke to him next?
Well, I told him that I didn't remember if he had won or not because I didn't last to 18. I had to get on the airplane, and man, was I sick for about 3 days. But I just congratulated him, and I thought it was the most exciting Masters. And I don't think there was probably no one could have won it. Tiger Woods had a lot of people pulling for him this year, but I think that was the greatest win that Jack Nicklaus ever pulled off right there. That was a great win for him.
Let's go ahead and see what John in South Carolina wants
Sure.
to kick around. Lee, hello, John.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Fire away.
Lee, I don't know if you remember me. I caddied for Chichi. My name's the Greek. And I knew Herman and all you out there when I was out there, and I quit Chi-Chi around 82. It's really good to see you there, Lee. You're
Thank
looking
you.
good.
Thank you.
And whatever you do, don't ever give up the game. And I drive an 18-wheeler now. If you want me to come over there and run over all them golf carts.
Well, we'll start with them in the Carolinas, will you?
Pardon me?
Start with them in the Carolinas, running over those carts, and if you get away with it, then come on down to Texas.
I hear you. I go to El Paso all the time out there to deliver, and it's really good to talk to you. And
Thank you, my
Peter,
friend.
you got a great show here.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, Lee.
Yeah.
I left my phone number there. If you'd give it to Chi-Chi, I've been trying to get a hold of him in Naples, and I can't get a hold of him.
Okay, he's living up in North Stewart now.
Okay, would you please give him my phone number?
Okay, John.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Lee.
much. Okay.
Bye-bye.
You know, you mentioned Chi-Chi. It makes me think of Billy Casper, just because when you joined the tour, those were a couple of guys in their prime. But Billy, who was maybe the best player of the second half of the 60s,
You got it.
didn't get the credit for it.
You got it.
Tell me about it.
Hale Irwin never got the credit of being the player that he was. 3 U.S. Opens and all those tournaments that he won. But Billy Casper, at the time, IMG had what we call the Big Three. And it was the old deal. If you had Player, you had Nicklaus, you had Palmer. They were all under the umbrella. And it was almost like, hey, if they wasn't at your tournament, you didn't have a golf tournament. You understand? But that wasn't it, because Billy Casper, from about 1965 to 69, probably won more golf tournaments than any of those guys.
He did.
And he never got the credit for it. Let me tell you, Billy C. could golf his golf ball. He was the only player I ever saw that fade his woods, draw his irons, and could hit a bunker shot with a draw. Absolutely one of the best I've ever seen out of a bunker. Kind of low, and he would kind of hook into the hole. But and I don't have to tell you what he could do with his flat stick.
And how great was he on the last 5 holes when he had the lead or he was within sight of it?
He had so much confidence in his putting, a la Crenshaw or Bob Charles. When you're coming down the stretch battling Bob Charles, you better be on, because he is such a great up and down guy that Bob Charles, in other words, if you're standing out in the middle of the fairway with a 4-iron, Peter, you don't care whether you miss that green or not. If you're not putting very well, or you're not, well, even if you're not putting very well, and you stand out there with a 4-iron, you want to hit this ball past the flag, 15 feet, and you better be on the green. And the reason for it is because if you're not putting well, you don't want an uphiller. You don't want a side hiller. You want something you can shake off that putter downhill, and you don't have to hit it very hard.
And you can look good choking.
You can look great choking. Great choking.
We'll take a short break. We'll be right back with Lee. Stay with us.
All
probably worked on almost as many clubs
No.
as Arnold Palmer has.
No, he's ruined much more clubs than I have. No, but you know something? That's how you come up with something, is you have to trial and error. Trial and error. TA we called it. Everybody else calls it R&D, right? We call it trial and error. The only way to build something is to try to modify it and find out if it works or not. Yeah.
Well, tell me about your involvement with this particular club, the Intimidator 400 series.
Well, let me tell you what this fairway can. There is not a fairway wood on the market today that will do what this club will do. And I'm going to show you something. And the reason for it is because the way that it's built. Herman and I were trying to find a way to get a 3-wood in the air. We called every manufacturer in the country. We said, send me some heads. We put shafts in. We put graphite. We put steel. We put titanium, plastic. You name it, we had it in there. We couldn't get this thing over that camera. I mean, we hit so many golf balls. We couldn't get, we'd go back to the garage, we'd take the shafts out, we'd put them in the heads, interchange them, you know, couldn't get it over the camera. Believe me, God's truth. I'm lying in bed one morning, as you well know, I go to bed at 8:30. I wake up about 4 o'clock. I got nothing on my mind except getting this ball in the air. And it hit me. I says, I got it. I says, why can't you put a bounce on a golf club like a sand wedge? Now, my thought was put the bounce on the club so you can get the ball in the air. But after we did this, we took all kinds of clay. We took, oh, that's one of my snakes. Sorry about that. We took, that's a coral too. It's
You
beautiful
can bring that
snake.
home to Daniel.
Beautiful snake. But you notice, I live with these. I used to swim with these things and
Thanks
look for
the
golf
big
balls.
reaction. No, I really appreciate it. Makes for great television the way you did that.
Oh, no, that's no big thing with me. Let me tell you something. Somebody had to put it in there, right?
I suppose so.
So if someone put it in there, it can't be real. No one in their right mind's going to put it in there if it's real. But what I did with this golf club is, as you can see, it's got the bounce on it. Now, the reason for that, watch this. You see that? When you're coming through the ball, look, it's hitting in the back first. What this does is when it comes down along the ground, this hits and lowers the front down to pick the ball up. It's the most incredible thing you have ever seen. And I've had it tested with senior players, lady players, good golfers, what we call high handicappers. Put this ball in a divot, put it in tall grass, put it in a waste bunker, put it in pine needles, put it on bare dirt, cart paths. It doesn't make any difference. The ball goes straight up. Reduces the fat shots by about 50 to 70%. If you hit behind the ball, it'll scoot into it. But this is a 7-wood, has 6 degrees of bounce on it. All other woods, you know, they've put so much radius in front of a wood and nothing behind it that when you're coming down, if you don't come down perfect to it like a professional, remember one thing. These golf courses today are being maintained for professionals. The fairways are way too tight for the average lady that plays golf and the average senior. They can't get the ball in the air.
And the technological advances are usually for good players. You're saying this is for them.
I don't want to build listen, I build golf clubs for high handicappers. I'm hoping that a pro will play with it. I'm not building a golf club for a pro, because if I build a golf club for a pro, the lady and the average high handicapper can't play with it.
But they'll buy it.
Sure, they'll buy it.
Which is a mistake.
It's in the garage.
Of course.
Yeah, it's in the garage. You can make boat anchors with them, or you can do whatever you want with them.
Are you playing these on tour?
Oh, there's my old ones. Look at, can you grab that one right there? Yeah, just grab one of those.
I can't quite reach it from here.
Here.
That's a great
Snag
move.
that thing
Okay,
over the short
okay,
one,
yeah.
the other one.
Oh, thanks. After that
Okay, that's
catch.
a
Okay, hang
3-wood.
on.
Watch. There's my leather grip. Watch this. You think I've been using it? This is my favorite. Okay? What is that? It's a 9-wood.
Man, and it really does.
Wait a minute. You think I've been using it? Look how beat up that thing is. Because I didn't know I was going to use it. I was just playing, and I had it in the bag without a head cover. And look at it. This has 29 degrees on it, 8 degree of bounce. I can hit this out of a bunker, 190 yards out of a bad lie, just right out of a bunker. You know, as long as the lip is not too high, takes off. 29 degrees, which is comparable to a 5-iron, but because of the mass and because the center of gravity is deeper, you can hit it the distance of a 4-iron.
So I'm going to hit it solid, but I'm going to hit it high.
Not only that, is you're not going to shank it either.
You haven't seen my swing.
No, you can't shank. If you shank this, I'll get you a tennis racket. Don't worry about it. But I'll tell you something. This golf club revolutionized fairway woods. Believe me when I tell you this.
How important is the shaft, the muscle shaft?
Well, the muscle shaft, the
recreational
kick is
player?
in the muscle, and we can put the kick in 4 different spots. If you're a high ball hitter, we'll put the muscle down so you can get it back down. If you're a low ball hitter, we'll move the muscle up to where you can get the ball up in the air. We can play with this. We can put this muscle in 4 different spots.
I just wish you could work up some enthusiasm for this, you know?
I absolutely, there's no missing in this deal right here. I think that this is, it's just the most amazing thing I've ever seen, the way this golf club works.
The top flight Intimidator 400 series,
and it'll be
titanium
out,
face.
I tell you what, I just did an info commercial for this, and I also did a 30-second commercial for this. And we do have a 1-800 number, and the 1-800 number is to call your local professional to see exactly where you can get these, or if he can get them for you. That's what this is for.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a little break.
Thank you.
And as we leave, let's take a look at a reasonably good shot that Lee hit in the Skins game in 1987. Talk Live, you have the opportunity to email a question to our guest. Question for Lee. Everyone knows of your great relationship with Herman Mitchell over many years together as caddy and best friend. Please update us on how he's doing and if we'll see him on tour again. From Marvin Johnson in Charlotte, North Carolina. You liked Herman when he was on Golf Talk Live, right?
I miss him. Yeah, I miss him. I talk to him occasionally on the telephone. He's doing very well. He's in Pensacola, Florida. Herman got married a couple of years ago, bought a little house down there, and I set a little retirement up for him at the office, and I send him so much every month. So he's doing very well. He plays golf 3 or 4 times a week, and he's got congestive heart failure. Herman was last down to 217 pounds, which was much smaller than when he was here at the talk show. And if he takes it easy, you know, he can do all right. But as far as coming back to caddy, no, I don't think he'll be able to do that. Yeah.
Well, his health's more important. And if he's
very
playing
much so.
3 or 4 times a week,
yes,
and he's happily married,
exactly,
that's a pretty good deal.
That's a great deal, and I want him to live a little bit longer. I don't want him to come out here and something happen and he passes away on me, because he's family to me. Yeah, I love that guy.
And you fellas had a long and a great time out there
20
as
years.
a team. It was a great
20
thing.
years, and everybody thought we were serious. We would fight and bicker at each other, and then we'd get in the car and go home and laugh. One lady came up to him once and says, "Does he treat you like that all the time?" And Herman says, "No, ma'am, this is a good day today."
And you say, you can't play, and you tell him he can't caddy. We're going to take a very short break. We'll come back and spend a couple of more minutes with Lee Buck Trevino. What do you think about all of this agonizing about the selections and the pressure and the matchups and the captain's role for the Ryder Cup? Is it getting out of hand a little bit?
Yes. Yeah, when I played the Ryder Cup, and I played 6 times, and I was captain once, and we lost in 1985, and I think that's when it really started. You know, there was things saying that I didn't do enough, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. All I said, hey, I matched them up, and they went and got beat. I didn't play. And then they brought Nicklaus out of retirement and says, hey, man, you got to get the trophy back. He takes him down to his home club at Muirfield, and he got spanked. And then they said, you know, this is getting serious. But let me tell you something. The Europeans, when I played, always had 4 players that could match up with our 4. They couldn't match up with the other 7. Now they can match up with the other 7. I think that the U.S. is going to be triumphant. I'll tell you something. I think they're going to spank somebody this time in Spain. Already controversy in Spain. If you read the paper this morning with Sevi Ballesteros taking Miguel Martin out because he has a hurt wrist. They wanted him to go out and play the golf course to see if his wrist and Olazabal was 11th, and all of a sudden the committee says, hey, you're out, and Olazabal is in, and now I think he's going to take him to court. He got that spot. That's his spot. He says, I wasn't supposed to be ready September the 3rd. I'm supposed to be ready September the 26th.
But he may not be competitively ready by then, and there's the issue is,
yeah.
He hasn't played since the British. Being ready to play golf and being ready to play Ryder Cup at the end of the month are different. Let me switch gears on you.
Sure.
What lessons will Tiger learn in the future, briefly, about stringing his shots together more successfully?
Tiger's got to learn that he can't vaporize the grass every time he gets in the rough. I've seen him in some situations to where he's tried to do the impossible and ended up with double, triple bogey. You're going to learn one thing, and let me tell you something. He's way advanced for a 21-year-old. Way advanced, in my opinion. With 3/4 shots, he won almost $3 million in a year. I mean, no one has even ever come close to that. I'm not here to judge this young man and the talent that he has. It's no question of the talent that he has. But he's going to have to learn to pull back a little bit. When he gets in trouble, get the ball back in play, and then get the ball up and down. And make bogeys when you get in trouble.
Not
Don't
doubles.
make double and triple. And his dad, Earl, would be the first to tell him that. And he gets out there, and old Fluff will try to get him to go out in front. He's, I think I can get this ball in. And sometimes he does. He hits the miracle shot. There was only one charger. There was only one man that would intimidate you when he was in trouble, and that was Arnold Palmer. I mean, he used to rip at everything, and that's how he'd bring those pants out. He'd grab that tree wood, and he'd rip it 400 miles, and it would come off, and it would be wonderful. But I'll tell you something, Tiger is, it's incredible what he's done for the game this year.
It's incredible.
Thank you, Peter.
You're the happiest you've ever been, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I can tell that.
I'm happily married. I've got 2 wonderful kids at home, and great dog. And
Come back and see us. This was way too short.
Oh, I tell you what, I'll be back. Sure.
And thank you for being with us. We'll see you very soon right here on Golf Talk Live. Good night, everybody.